We're gathered here today to introduce you to some everyday folks that have had to deal with a tremendous tragedy in their life. Today we're going to talk about Brittany's Law, a law that has been proposed, named after Brittany Pascalaqua, a 12-year-old girl who was murdered in 2009 along with her mother, Helen Bushell. These two victims were killed by John Edward Brown, who was on parole after serving time in prison for violently assaulting his infant daughter in 2003. Helen Bushell and her family had no idea of Mr. Brown's violent history. Had we had a registry of violent offenders had been in place, this tragic crime and hundreds of others across the state could have been avoided.
On a single afternoon, this young lady, Brittany, with her mom, were murdered senselessly. And that today we have both of Brittany's grandmothers who are here today, who have been stellar in their support for Brittany's Law, a law that has passed the New York State Senate 5 times. And we hope that it will pass the Assembly, and that's what the speakers here today will be asking for.
I have a couple questions for the Assembly, and I hope someone can provide us with some answers. What does it take for a bill to make it to the Assembly floor? It's made it to the Senate 5 times, passed overwhelmingly, but we can't seem to get it to the floor in the Assembly. My second question, and although he's not here, I would like to address this to Governor Cuomo as well. 2 years ago, I was making calls. I initially started out by emailing everybody, all the Assembly members, and I received a response from one of your colleagues, and in the letter was a list of every member of the crime committee along with their phone numbers. So I started calling them. I called every one of them. After a couple days, we were getting towards the end of the session. When I heard nothing, I called again. As I got to the end of the list, I was told by one of the aides, it's in big bold print here, do not bring this to the floor for a vote. What one person would have the power to dictate if a bill has the right for a vote? That should never happen. Every bill should at least have the right for a vote.
I remember back when Britt was 4 and terrified of the monsters in her closet, I would always comfort her and tell her there was no such thing as monsters. Well, I was wrong. There are monsters among us. They are not just the ugly, scary kind from children's stories. They look just like us, talk just like us, walk among us, and socialize with us. We do not recognize them until something tragic happens. We need the tools to recognize them before tragedy happens. We need to protect our children's lives.
This is the top priority for me personally, to get this law passed in the State Assembly. I have been working steadfastly with members of the other side of the aisle. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's not a partisan issue. This is about families and preventing crime and tragedies so there won't be victims.
We live with this every day of our lives, and we will until the day we die. I cannot begin to express the amount of pain that comes along with something like this. And that being said, I wouldn't want you to know, because you'd have to go through it.